Hello, and welcome to day 3 of Generative AI in Action, Practical Skills for Real-World Applications. I'm Heather Shoenberger, an Associate Professor of Advertising at the Bellisario College of Communications, and I'm excited to guide you through this last session, so let's get started. Just a quick recap from last week. Last week we talked about using cognitive load theory and how it informs us about how we can prompt or how we should prompt LLMs to provide us with the most accurate, relevant, and useful content. And I provided several tactics to get the text types that you may want. We also talked about basic rules as far as how we should be guiding our AI use, both in the first session and the second session. In this session, I want you to really concentrate on one in particular, which is that assume this is the worst AI that you will ever use. And I will explain why I'm highlighting that particular one today, although others apply as well. So prompt engineering for images are what we'll be working on today. We're going to discuss prompt engineering to create images, and then we're going to walk through exercises where you can follow along with me, or you can observe, look back, and try on your own time. Just to give you an idea, there are many image generators. I'm highlighting the ones we're going to use today, and also some that are really good. So DALL-E powers ChatGPT and Copilot. We'll be using both of those today. They also both have free versions. So everything within this 3-part webinar uses the free versions of all of these pieces of technology. And so that is a limitation, but also I think helps to lower the bar for many of you who are just trying to dip your toe and see what's going on here. And we'll be looking a little bit about Meta, which is Facebook's artificial intelligence. Gemini, we talked about last session and some of its strengths. Midjourney is very good at creating images, but it does have a paywall. And Stable Diffusion, too, has a paywall. And Stable Diffusion is really helpful for game developers and the type of imagery they're looking to create. The types of images we're creating today will be just fine in the versions that I will demonstrate. Okay, so I mentioned that this is the worst AI you're going to be using, and that every day almost there will be improvements and changes. So one issue that is still a problem is trying to get images that are consistent throughout maybe a story. So one of the assignments we have for our undergraduate class is to reimagine a children's story and then try to, recreate that story, both the text and the images. And almost all of the students had a really hard time, even this semester when the technology has improved, having really consistent characters. So sometimes a squirrel would be very realistic looking, sometimes it might be a little bit cartoonic looking, and that's just one of the drawbacks of the software that we have right now, but it will be improving. It's already improving. There were some groups that were able to get relatively consistent images throughout the entire book. And so there's some tips and tricks I'll be telling you about today that will hopefully help you to do that as well if you're interested. Copyright and protected content is something that we weren't talking about last semester because the tech hadn't caught up, but since there's been so many lawsuits from celebrities, companies saying, hey, you can't train on our data, we want some sort of control over it, there has been a movement by, especially I would say, OpenAI to really sort of figure out what material may be copyrighted. So for example, last semester, I asked ChatGPT, please describe to me how I could get someone to vote for a new candidate and pretend that the person who's trying to persuade me is James Franklin. So sure enough, we got a very, according to some of his players, a very real sounding response of like the way that he might go about this persuasion. However, fast forward to this semester, and in ChatGPT, that is now copyrighted. You can't do that exercise anymore. You can in other platforms, but for ChatGPT, copyright is sort of catching up. And also, since we're talking about images today, you might run into images that are copyrighted, of course, especially if you are, asking for a particular picture by a known artist, or the image could be too violent. So something that I've been running into with my son, and I'm going to actually pop out of here and show you exactly what will come up. Every night, one of the things we do before going to sleep now is he wants to create images. And T-Rex is currently the main theme. It's T-Rex doing something almost every night. And so what he asked for originally was a Team Spidey T-Rex. So those of you who don't know Team Spidey, it's this spin-off series on Disney about Spider-Man and his little friends. It's something that my son enjoys immensely, and he would like for T-Rex to be much more involved in that activity. So he wanted to create a Spidey team T-Rex. So I tell it I want an image, and it says I wasn't able to generate the image because it didn't follow content policy. If you'd like, I can create something similar, maybe a T-Rex with superhero-like features, but with a unique design rather than referencing specific characters. Let me know how you'd like to adjust it. So running into a little bit of copyright here, the image that we ended up getting was this one, which he was like, this is Iron Man, this isn't Spidey. So I asked for the modification to be make the costume with a spider on it, and sure enough, this looks very similar to Spidey now. So this is our Spidey T-Rex. We are very pleased with the end result here. But just to give you an idea of some of the copyright issues that you may run into, certainly there's ways around them, as long as you're not using someone's facial likeness for the most part. And then there's some like Grok through Twitter or X. They don't seem to have very many copyright issues at all. So you can still ask for like an image of Kim Kardashian sitting next to her boyfriend who is not her boyfriend. Like just pick an actor who you may want to have a fake image of her with. But most of them are working to provide this kind of protection for artists and copyright. Okay. And another issue that you're going to run into today, probably even, is running out of free images. So on ChatGPT, you only get about 3 images, and then it says you have to wait a couple of hours. Copilot will give you many more. I'm unclear exactly how many more. I've got sort of mixed results with that, and Meta too will give you a couple more. So we'll be experimenting with Meta, AI, Gemini, Copilot, and ChatGPT today, just to give you a flavor of what might be different, what might be the same. I will note that Copilot uses DALL-E, which is the same image generator that ChatGPT uses, but still interestingly provides sometimes very different types of images, even with the same prompt. So we'll look to that a little bit. Okay. So first, I wanted to just walk through some tips and tricks, and I have the images that I've already created here for you to see, like how they turned out, and also an example. So if you wanted to come back and try these on your own, all you have to do is copy the example and put it in as a prompt. So this is a text to image multimodal usage of these large language models. And not all of them provide images, but the ones we're talking about today will. So in this case, just like we saw when we were texting for text output or creating prompts for a text output, we want it to be specific and descriptive. In this case, you want to clearly describe the scene, the subject, the colors, textures, and overall atmosphere. And this might be kind of a learning curve for some people who are not photographers who are used to sort of setting the scene, or maybe even artists who are used to thinking about all of these things. But if you want a really quality image that represents exactly what you're looking for, you really have to think carefully about all of the nuts and bolts of these prompts. So on the left, I had just a basic, I think I just typed in forest. Just give me an image of a forest. And I was using Copilot for both of these. Versus the second one you'll see on the right where I said, instead provide me an image of a misty, dense forest with towering pine trees, soft sunlight filtering through, and a narrow dirt path covered in leaves. And sure enough, I got just about everything I asked for in that prompt. So if that was what I was looking to get, I have something much closer at this point. And again, I used Copilot, and you can tell what model I was using. Typically, I put it at the bottom right. Focusing on key details. So you want to identify the most important elements. You're going to focus on color, mood, or the subject's position. An example I have here, again, if you want to do this at home, you can just copy and paste this prompt in and see what happens, or create your own. A futuristic skyline at dusk with neon lit buildings, flying cars in the sky, and pedestrians walking on high-tech sidewalks is what I asked for. And hopefully you can see this pretty well. That's basically what I got. Like, this is essentially what was in my imagination when I set out to create that prompt. And again, I generated that particular image in Copilot. So another tip is to define the style or genre. So this can be really helpful too. I was talking about consistency earlier, but one of the hints I give to my students is if you can at least pick a style that you're going to tell the story through, like all of the images should be the same style, that really adds to the consistency. So if you're putting together a presentation, you need the same style. If you're doing what I did, so I love to write, but I'm not a fantastic artist. So I wrote a children's book for my son and then illustrated it with AI. And the images were not super consistent, but I learned a lot through that process. And one of the things I learned is if I pick a style and sort of keep it throughout the book, it looks a lot more consistent than it does if I just sort of willy-nilly are regenerating prompts based on whatever the text of that page happens to be. So you can do anything. If you're an artist and you have a particular style of art that you're really, that you really like, you can ask it to try that. You can ask it to render a sketch, a 3D render. I've seen people use this for product mock-ups or mock-ups for storyboard. If you're in advertising. My example here was a hand-drawn cartoon-style dragon flying over mountains with a comic book vibe. And I felt like it gave me exactly what I wanted. So I was pretty pleased. Setting the scene. So again, you're specifying backgrounds, lighting, additional objects. So all of these things can be really important in getting sort of the aesthetic that you're looking for in the image you're creating. In this case, I was just looking for a cat lying on a rug near a fireplace. And the example prompt I have here is a cozy room with a fireplace, a fluffy rug, and a cat curled up by the fire, warm golden lighting. And those are things that I wouldn't have necessarily thought to include in an image because I'm not a painter by trade. So I like thinking about these things. You sort of have to teach yourself and like really think about what exactly you want this image to be, and then figure out what prompts are most important to you. So maybe the lighting is really important for this. Like if you're making a product ad, and you want it to be on a beach scene, but you want it to be a cloudy beach scene. Like all of those things can come into play, and they're really easy to play around with. So in this example, I ended up getting my cat sleeping in front of the fireplace. It was warm, glowing light. What I was kind of unhappy with is that the cat is on a circular, fluffy bed, which is good for the cat, but that wasn't what I asked for. I wanted a fluffy rug. So one option I could do if I like this image, with the exception of that rug, is if I have the skills, I could take this into another program like Adobe Express or Adobe Photoshop, and I could fix that rug through another generative AI process, but that is for another day. Okay, you also may want to specify the perspective. So how do you want, like what angle do you want to be looking at this particular image? Do you want it to be close up? Do you want it to be a wide shot? The example that I used here was just a close-up portrait of a smiling woman in traditional Japanese attire viewed from a slightly high angle with soft lighting. And that is essentially what I got. Again, I used Copilot for this. And in a minute, I'm going to demonstrate how I'm doing this. I'm just giving you the sort of tactics so that you're ready when we get to the next part. Okay. Using reference points can be really helpful because remember, these models trained on all of the internet information, so they have a lot of wealth of knowledge about historical events, and they have information about historical images. So one thing here, if you are looking to create maybe a period piece for some type of advertisement or some promotional material or the family Christmas card, I don't know, you can say that you're interested in having an image that's inspired by a time period or art style. Again, if you're really specific about the art style, like if I say I want like Frida Kahlo art style, that could run into a copyright issue. But you just have to try it out and see. And I also can tell you an idea. In a second, I'll give you a way around that sort of, so that you can kind of still get the same style without violating the perceived copyright issues by directly asking for a particular artist. So I'll show you that in a second. But in this example, I asked for a 1920s style black and white photograph of a city street with vintage cars and people in period clothing. And sure enough, that's exactly what I got. And I think this was okay. This image to me looked a little bit fake when I examined it up close, but it's really close to what I want. I might, if I wanted a more realistic image, I might try Midjourney for this, if I was willing to pay for it, if it was important for me to pay for it, or the paid version of ChatGPT. Okay, adding mood or emotion is something else that you might not think unless you're kind of already in the production space. However, it's really important and can really make a difference in how your images turn out, and they can also just really make a difference in how a product is presented. So let's say I wanted to have an ad with like a sunscreen on this beach, or a model holding a bottle of sunscreen on this beach. This might not be the best option because there's a lot of light like coming through. It might be hard to see the model. So just thinking about the way that you want the mood to be even can be so important. Here, all I was looking for was a serene beach at sunrise with soft pastel skies and gentle waves, creating a tranquil and peaceful mood. I will say that I've had a couple of tries at creating eerie pictures, and they are incredibly eerie. So if you're interested, like Halloween is far away, but if you're getting ready to get back into Halloween fun, you can start creating some eerie images, maybe for invitations to Halloween parties or just for fun. Okay. Here are some tips. So I mentioned before, I think twice now, that consistency can be really challenging at this point. So again, remember, this is the worst AI we're ever going to use, and consistency is something that is a problem that's being worked on. Midjourney does a better job, but you have to pay for it. So these models will be getting better at this, and they are already much better at this. But one way to get color consistency that seems to work pretty well is if you go to this website. I have linked the website on the deck, and the deck should be available to all of you after this lecture. So if you want to go to this website, you can choose a color, whatever color you want from this pretty significant color bank. And when you stop on the color that you're interested in, it will give you a little square out here showing you what that color is. And even just moving it slightly can change the color just slightly, which it depends on what you're looking for. But if this is a color that I'm interested in, this kind of bluish purplish color, I'm going to get also generated for me, not generated. I'm getting it from this website. It's not generated in the same way that AI is generating things. But I get a hex code, and it gives me the exact code for this particular color. And so what I can do is within my prompt, if I say, like, let's imagine I want flowers of a certain color. I can say, please create me flowers that using the hex code color, and then I just copy and paste the hex code color into the prompt. And we've had pretty good success with the color being really consistent in that case. I'm just going to go ahead. I think we have time. I'm just going to go ahead and show you what this website looks like. So again, it's on the deck, which should be available to all of you at the conclusion of this. This website has a lot of ads on it, which is one of the reasons I hesitated to show you to begin with, but I think it might be helpful. So I just copy and pasted that link in here. And this is my color picker. So maybe instead of blue, I'm looking for more of a pinkish color. So here I'm in kind of a pink realm. I'm going to go for kind of a dark pink. What it looks like is sort of in this rectangle right here. And then the hex color I'm going to use is here. So I'm just going to copy the hex color. I'm just going to copy hex plus the hashtag and the little code after it. Because that should denote this particular color. So let's go out of here and see if I can do something with this in Gemini. I would like an image of a rose using the color. I'm just going to copy this in. I'm going to call it a hex color. I don't think it matters. And if I were to go back, that looks very similar to me right now, but if I were to go back and compare, I'm pretty sure it's very similar. So that's just a tip to try to get colors that are really consistent throughout if you're creating multiple images, or if you just have a specific color that you want something to be in the image that you're creating. This is another way to try to do that. Okay. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of tips and tricks. I have one more before we get into some demonstrations. And just remember, so the main theory or the main principle we're talking about today is that this is the worst AI you will ever use. But secondarily, always be the human in the loop, because you're going to get an image. It's almost never exactly the image that you are looking for. So you're going to want to have to refine and reiterate. And that's where you really come in. Your creativity comes in. I mean, your creativity begins by just whatever your prompt happens to be. You're creating something that's unique, something that is on your mind, an image that you've been thinking about. That's step one. And then once you get the image and you're like, well, it's not exactly what I was looking for, but it's close, or it's not close at all, then you're going to go ahead and refine and reiterate. So some of the questions you should ask yourself are, is the main subject accurate? That's the most important thing, right? Is my rose a rose in the last example that I just gave? If it was a different type of flower, that might be problematic for me. Is over style or mood what I wanted? I didn't specify any kind of mood. I was really just looking at colors. So I think I'll check yes for that. Are the details correct? And in the case I just showed you, I would say yes as well, but they may not be. So the example I gave you of the cat sleeping in front of the fireplace, I didn't like the detail where the cat is just sleeping on a fluffy circle. I wanted the whole rug to be fluffy. So in that case, the detail was incorrect. So what I'm going to try to do first is explicitly add what's missing and see if my prompt can be corrected. And we'll be working on that just a little bit. And it's not always corrected. I will note that to you. So because these are stochastic models, you can get things very different. So sometimes you'll get one and you're like, oh, the stars in this image are exactly where I wanted them to be. But the color of the little boy's shoes are not what I want. And so then you reiterate it and you say, listen, I want the color to change. Everything else I want to stay same, but I want the color of the little boy's shoes to change. And then you ask the same prompt with the addition of the shoe color change, and suddenly the stars are in places where you didn't want them to be. So it can take some time, and like anything, if you want the final product to be good, it will take a little bit of time. Okay, so I think a really important thing for images is this idea of reverse engineering. And I'm going to walk you through an example, and then I'm going to show you an example also. But this image is an image that doesn't exist really anywhere. One of my grad students made this for stimuli for an experiment, so I thought it was a good example. Basically what I did is I said, hey, I have this image. And I want to get the prompt that you would want me to have to recreate this image. So what I did is I uploaded the image to, I think at first I uploaded it to ChatGPT, and I said, please give me a prompt that would allow me to get the image I have just uploaded. And sure enough, I did get that prompt. And as you can see, it's quite lengthy. But in comparison to the prompts I tried in recreating that image on my own, this prompt got me significantly closer to what I was looking for. So I'll give you an example. And also another tip here is that when you do this, you'll see a whole bunch of pieces in here. And if you are, so in this example, I'm trying to create exactly what I put in. But I used this originally to create a logo. And I had a logo in mind that I thought would be really interesting. So, but I didn't want it exactly the same. I wanted to have a couple different symbols. I wanted to put the nitty line in the middle. But I found it sort of a logo that I really liked. And so I uploaded it to ChatGPT and I said, hey, I'm looking for whatever the prompt would be that would allow you to recreate this logo for me. So when I got the text, I then edited it to add in the things that I wanted. Like I wanted it to be certain colors. I wanted to have a nitty line in it. And I ended up getting pretty close to what I was looking for. So as a note, you also can edit this. So if there's an image that you really like, but you just want to make some changes, and you're having a hard time recreating it, on your own, this is a really good way to get an understanding of what you might need to get exactly what you're looking for. So you'll see here my before and after. So on the left, the fawn is, I think it's your left as well. You'll see that was the photo that I uploaded, and then on the right you'll see that was the photo that ChatGPT created based on the prompt that I copy and pasted back in. So it's pretty good. I also tried it again on Copilot, and I actually liked Copilot's more, even though, again, Copilot and ChatGPT are utilizing DALL-E. They're both using the same image generator, but there's still differences, as we know, even within the same model. Okay, and this will be more clear in a minute. I'm going to do an example. So one of my students actually showed me this really cool and interesting conundrum. So what happens is that people on the internet are trying to create or generate a full glass of wine. And evidently, it's really hard. Let me demonstrate this for you. So I didn't believe him because it doesn't make any sense. And I said, please create an image that shows a glass of wine filled to the brim. And as you can see, that is not filled to the brim. That is definitely not filled to the brim. So I'll say, okay, so that is not filled to the brim. And again, you get an image not filled to the brim. So what's going on here? That's actually a question that there isn't a very good answer for right now, but we're going to try that. We're going to try my method of reverse engineering to see if we can get closer than other people. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the image of a full wine glass, and I'm going to save it on my computer, which is what I did. I saved it as a download. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to try to reverse engineer the prompt that would give me this image. So I'm going to go out. Again, I'm sorry for those who are following me. Right now, what I have open is ChatGPT. ChatGPT only gives you 3 images at a time, which is why I've reserved it in the free version. If you want to pay for the more extended version, you get more tokens. I'm using Gemini, which is the Google AI. I have Copilot open. Hopefully. And Meta. And all of these are free. All of these options are free. Oh, let me get rid of this Copilot because I have this one open here. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload that wine glass, and I'm going to ask for it to re-engineer or like reverse engineer what it might take to get that image from one of these models. Oh, it won't let me do it. Let me try ChatGPT. So it wants me to sign in, which I hadn't signed in yet. So I'm uploading it from my computer, for those of you who are following along. And it can be any image. So if you want to try any image on your computer, it doesn't matter. I wouldn't use a private image, but if you have just, an image of flowers or something you can quickly take a screenshot of, which is what I did, of something, just anything that's an image, and you'll get an idea of how this works. So here's my full wine glass. I'm selecting it. I'm putting it in here, and I'm going to say, could you please provide the prompt to allow me to regenerate or to generate the image I uploaded. And hopefully it will. And I'm in ChatGPT now. And it does. It gives me a prompt to generate a similar image. So the prompt here is a close-up of a wine glass filled with deep, dark red liquid, almost black in appearance. The glass is elegant, with a thin stem and a wide, rounded bowl. The liquid inside has a smooth, reflective surface with a subtly frothy layer at the top. The background is clean and white, creating a contrast with the dark color of the drink. Okay, so let's see if this works. So what I did is I just copy and pasted the prompt that ChatGPT provided me, and I'm going to see if it's going to give me a full wine glass. Well, it's fuller, but it's not super full. So let's try this with Gemini. So I'm putting the exact same prompt into Gemini. It's a different image generator. Let's see what happens. Again, it didn't work that well. So let's try. Hopefully it's going to let me do this. Oh, you have to log in to generate images. Okay, let me get my Copilot signed in. Okay, so let's try and Copilot. Again, it's just not amazing. So, to be honest, the closest I got was I went to a Reddit site and someone developed a prompt that got it really close, although it tends to be kind of wonky. But this is just an interesting thing. Like, we're still learning as to the why of some of these outputs. But I just want to draw your attention to some of these really helpful things. So maybe you want to change the background to a wood texture. And you can do that. And these are just suggestions for you. Like, add a cheese platter, include some wine bottles, make it a sunset setting. And you can view more prompts as well. And I'm in Copilot right now. So they are trying to make it a little bit more user-friendly, so you don't have to rely sort of on all of these tactics and hold them in your brain at all times. And I think this will be incredibly helpful for brand managers trying to make social media content, anyone trying to make social media content for that matter. Okay. So that's just a fun problem that I was recently made aware of, and I think it's just really interesting. Why can't we do that? I don't know. Okay, so here's where you're also going to be following along. I'm going to try to recreate a 1950s diner scene. And I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that this will be generated based on the platform that you choose. All right, let's see if we have any tokens left in ChatGPT. So I would like an image of a 1950s diner scene. And you'll see this is relatively cartoonish. I mean, this is exactly what you would probably expect in a 1950s diner scene. It's pretty cute. So maybe I want to make it, I want to make this image a little more realistic. And I can't decide if I think that's more realistic or not. It looks like there's a car parked in the diner, which may not be terribly realistic. And I've reached the limit, my creation limit. So if you're using a free version, you only have about 3 images every couple of hours. But at 11:10 tomorrow, I can create more. Okay, so now we are out of images on ChatGPT, the free version. We've seen the history. Oh, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that to black and white in Gemini. So now I have, please create an image of a 1950s diner in black and white. And sure enough, it's very different. It's a different image generator, and the image is entirely different. But sure enough, is it what looks to be a 1950s diner in black and white. Okay, just to give you an example of how different they can be, even across platforms and even within platforms, honestly. Okay, so now we're going to work on reiteration. Okay, so in this case, we're going to start with a very simple prompt, but then we're going to do several iterations to sort of try to get more detail. One of the things I tell my students in the Gen AI class is that these prompts are sort of have a similar idea to how we do creative writing. So you have to know all this information, but then you have to have like just the relevant information is the tip of the iceberg that you like show to the world. And that's the information you're kind of trying to decide that you want to type in or make realized by your prompts in the image that you generate. So in this case, let's say our prompt is going to be, let's start with a dog. And we'll do a couple of these just to get you familiar. Okay, so unfortunately, I've run out of my free prompts through ChatGPT. So I'll start with Gemini. So I would like a picture of a dog. And it gave me a very cute golden retriever, which is close to my heart because I'm a golden retriever lover. But let's imagine I didn't want a golden retriever. I wanted a pug. Now, what else do I want to do with this pug? So I'm not happy with just this random image. So what I want to do is have some action. And what I have to decide, am I looking for action with a real looking pug, or do I want a cartoonish sort of looking pug? And just for demonstration's sake, I'm going to say, please make me a cartoonish image of a pug eating ice cream. And I get something very, very different. But this is kind of what I wanted. The only problem here, as you'll see, there's an extra leg, which I do not want. I'm going to try and get rid of it, but we may not be able to. Let's see. Again, remind yourself this is the worst AI you will ever use. Oh, well, it changed the image entirely, but now we have the correct number of limbs, which is very exciting. Maybe we want now we're making a comic book and we want to have mock-ups for what this comic dog might look like. So now I want a pug superhero cartoon in a comic book style. And sure enough, oh, they're really into extra legs today. I'm going to try this exact same prompt in a different platform, but here you go. So this is pretty good. So what you could do if you wanted to is take this into Adobe Express. Again, we can potentially, if we have more sessions, I could teach you how to get rid of one of these legs. And keep the image that if you loved it. But let's see what Copilot does with the same prompt. This is much better. So I would say that I trust Copilot a little bit more to create my images, especially images in this vein. Like this is a solid superhero pug. So, okay, so I'm not done yet. Let's say I also am interested in creating a sidekick character for this pug. The reason that even came to my mind is that there's a suggestion here. So one of the things I think that's really getting pretty cool is that they're adding little suggestions that you can add in yourself. You do not have to do that. You can always continue to reiterate on your own. But let's just go ahead and try out this sidekick. Well, there is zero sidekick here, so it didn't work as well as we had hoped. Let's try adding a villain character. So I noted at the beginning of this session that sometimes this can be incredibly frustrating, and part of the frustration comes in with you run out of prompt opportunities, or you use up your tokens pretty quickly in the free versions. And two, you don't always get what you want. Like the wine glass gives you a good example. These ones are giving us some good examples. This one worked out great. Look, there's a supervillain, terrifying supervillain, and a very happy, oh no, and a very happy pug. I think I just got rid of it. Yes, it did. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my pug example. Or actually, I'll just go back to my slide and make sure that we covered all of the pieces that I wanted to make sure. So what are the surroundings? What's the mood of the scene? What details do you want to add? So let's try again. And this time, I'm going to try a magical creature. So I want them to please create a magical bunny creature. And this is the adorable bunny that was created. So now what I want to do, well, maybe I want to download this bunny, put it on a card, or frame it. I don't know. Or maybe it's going to inspire me to write a poem or a short story. But what I want to do, so what I did here is I made the screen too small so you can't see. Too big, I mean. So now what I want to do is I'm going to ask it to make it sparkle and see what happens. And it does. This new bunny does, in fact, sparkle. So you kind of get the idea. I'm going to suggest give it magical powers just because I'm interested in seeing what that means. And this, I mean, as far as you can sort of describe magical powers visually, this looks pretty good. So you can have a lot of fun with this. I mean, there's much more practical uses, but these are some fun exercises I thought everyone would enjoy. So let me just make sure I have covered all of what I wanted to cover. Oh, the mood of the scene. So I'm going to take this bunny, this magical bunny, and I'm going to put it into Gemini. And I'm going to say, please create a magical bunny eating apples in a enchanted forest with sparkling trees, with colorful trees, or foliage, I guess. And let's see what happens. And I've moved now to Gemini, so it's unclear how similar this bunny is going to look. Whoa, totally different. This is basically a possessed bunny eating apples. So currently, it looks like magical creatures too are better generated in Copilot and ChatGPT. But this is all learning, like we're learning this every day. So there's some thought that certain, and I think I even mentioned that in the very first slide, and you can go back and look at it. I'll bring it up really quickly. I gave sort of a outline of some of the generators we use today. We use DALL-E, both from Copilot and ChatGPT. The strengths of those are that they generate highly creative and realistic images based on detailed text prompts. And I would say, yes, that's exactly what they do. They're great for creating unique custom artwork or imagery, best for art, surreal concepts, and photorealistic images. And I think we could all agree based on today's demonstration. Meta AI generates highly creative and realistic images based on detailed text prompts, best for realistic scenes, complex scenes, and customization. And I just realized that I forgot to add in Meta, so you'll have to try that one on your own. Oh, because I couldn't log in. In Gemini, the nice thing about Gemini is really more text-based than it is image-based right now, because they have an ecosystem that allows for a really efficient, iterative refinement process. Something that the others don't quite have, because Gemini is connected to Google. So the sky's the limit for them if they can get it together. And then Midjourney, just known for artistic and highly stylized outputs, it really is like very, very, very good as far as these generators go. And then of course, Stable Diffusion is really good for coders. And it is time for me to wrap up. So I just want to note, this is the tip of the iceberg. This is just the very beginning, very little tiny pieces, broad overview of this technology. And I hope that you enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure for all of us to work on this project. I wanted to give a special thanks to Michelle Baker, Scott Myrick, Benji Romig, Yutai Chung, Paris Palmer, James Updike, Steve Samsel, Jonathan McVeary, Meredith Madavi, Marie Harden, and others. For putting this together. It took a village to get all of this together. So thank you so much, you guys, for that. And I want to again direct you, if you have questions or if you're hungry for more information, come to or send emails to aishortcourse@psu.edu. And if you're interested in the badge for completing this course,